Welcome to our podcast, Mortgage Masterminds. I'm Richard Greaser, VP of Marketing at Sales Boomerang, and my guest today is Elyin Perez, CEO at Ace Lending Group. Elyin, great to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me, Richard.
Well, quick plug on Sales Boomerang in case you don't know who we are or you've been living under a rock since 2017. Sales Boomerang notifies lenders the moment one of their borrowers needs a loan. What does that mean? It means in this purchase market, you need to know when one of people you've done business with before, perhaps it's a lead, needs a cash out, their equity's improved. Maybe they can drop mortgage insurance. These are all great reasons to hop on with the borrower and have a check-in. In the purchase market, it's super competitive, so you definitely didn't need to know if anybody has listed their home or has done a mortgage inquiry with another borrower. If you don't know what Sales Boomerang is, go to salesboomerang.com, salesboomerang.com. Check us out, reach out. We'd love to have a strategy call with you and tell you a little bit more about what we do and how we might help you meet your goals. Elyin, let's jump right into it, man. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got to start Ace Lending Group where you're at right now. I think it all starts back in March 18th, 2020, and I love this story. So kick it off for us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I mean, it starts there because that's when I decided to really, quit the company I was working with. But it started a decision prior to that where I was just frustrated working for someone. And having to go through 20 different layers of management to get anything done. And I felt very limited to my production, how I wanted to run my business, and how I thought business should be ran to deliver the best level of service without having to be on call 24/7, man. So with that being said, towards the end of 2019, I had made up my mind that on March 18th, 2020, no matter what happened, I was quitting my retail LO job and I was opening up my own brokerage. 18th I did that. And well, coincidentally, pandemic was starting to happen. Well, it wasn't a pandemic yet. Coronavirus was China, just hit California. And I'll never forget that morning because my wife comes up to me as I'm leaving to go to the office. And she says, "Hey, by the way, are you still quitting today?" I was like, "Yes, the 18th, nothing's changed." She's like, "Well, there is this COVID or coronavirus happening. And I think we should really think about it and take it seriously. It's going to be here." I'm like, "That thing's in China." She's like, "Well, it's in California now." It's like, yeah, that's no big deal. I didn't think twice about it. I'll be quite frank, Richard. So I ended up quitting. Sure enough, by Monday, because that was a Wednesday. So by Monday morning, the whole state of Florida was shut down. And that was a journey on its own because my licenses were not turned on. I was like, oh, well, better go hide in my office and start smiling and dialing to figure out how to make this work because I have nothing happening right now since I quit that place. Everything's shutting down. And as you know, not even within a week of two or that, a bunch of other lenders started shutting down, overlays, and it just created a great time to start a business.
Well, hey, man, let's unpack some of the details here. First of all, everybody, why should you care about what you're listening? You are looking and listening to an entrepreneur who left a guaranteed paycheck job to take a huge risk and start his own thing and has been very successful at it. So just to give you a teaser, end of 2019, what were your numbers in terms of like origination volume?
Origination number, I was a branch manager. I personally originated that year around 17, 18 million.
And you just finished out last year at what?
45.
And your team is how big?
We're up to 14 people now, and majority of that being support staff, by the way. It's only 3 other LOs and myself, so a total of 4 producing LOs. And that 45 mil is my own production.
That is why you should be paying attention. This is what success looks like, right? Elyin is on track to be creating a very, very successful business. It's already successful, and his goals for what he's going to do this year are going to be super successful, and what he's going to do next year is going to be even more successful. So listening to this podcast is, hey, you can do it too. And by the way, I think Elyin is not alone. I think there's going to be a lot of folks this year that kind of follow in your path. Based on what I've been hearing and what I've been seeing in terms of opening up their own brokerages. So a lot of folks are going to find this interesting, I think, or a lot of folks might just be wanting to to join someone like yourself.
No, I agree, and I think the flexibility makes a big difference. And I think especially with margins compressing and everything that's happening in the marketplace, being able to just define your own destiny makes a huge difference for sure, Richard.
Okay, so let's take it on day one. This is a crazy time to start your own business. COVID's happening. Everything's shut down. You didn't even have your you didn't even have your lending license, right? In Florida, you didn't have it. You're kind of like on day one. You're like, okay, what do I do? So talk to me on day one. Like the government offices weren't even open for you to get that. So how did you get started?
So you're correct. So I basically, at that point, what I had done, just so you know, is I had everything filled out to submit, but I couldn't really submit to open up a lot of things because the first thing that had to get approved was, well, my NMLS business license through the state of Florida and everything like that for regulation purposes. So I couldn't submit to pull credit. I couldn't have an LLS open. I couldn't do anything. So at that point, I felt stuck. But I did what I know how to do, which is smile and dial, I say. So I just started calling a bunch of realtors and hyping up the fact that I'm opening up my own brokerage because I want to be able to go ahead and give them the flexibility of being able to say yes if there's a lender out there that's able to do it, because that's the point of being a broker, is you're not no longer stuck to I'm working for one guy, and if they all of a sudden decide to throw overlays on there, or if they decide to hike margins at a higher amount than everyone else, it's either I suck it up or I quit. And most of the time, those contracts, when you quit, they keep your business because it's not yours, it's theirs. At least that's how the majority of contracts read nowadays.
Well, so that's
Right?
super important. So when you left your last job, you didn't have a book of business you were bringing with you. You had to leave it on the table.
Oh.
And you were,
I had my cell phone and all the agents I knew on there.
man, that's tough. Okay, well, so what does your business breakdown look like in terms of where are you getting most of your business from? Where were you getting it then, and where are you getting it now? It sounds like then it was all realtors.
Majority realtors, and it's still that way. I think the biggest difference now, because I've been able to add and implement quite a few things, I'm also getting tons of client referrals now that before, because I wasn't able to necessarily focus on the client experience because it was a one-man show when you work at those, at least at the place I was at, right? One person, you're the LO, you have to be the marketing department, the sales department, and the ops department. Well, I never thought it should be that
Hmm.
way, which is why I had to wanted to change it, and I have changed it the way I run my company. So, correct, that's how it was. And the first day, I grabbed all those realtor phone numbers, and like I said, for that first week, all I did was call agents. And believe it or not, during that first week, even though I didn't have anything, I was able to get a contract because I ran a whole deal manually on a piece of paper at home, and I told them I could do it, and I told them I needed 45 days to close it, and it's my first deal in my LOS, and it's closed and funded.
Yeah, that's a great story too. I mean, you were telling me about that with the handwritten Elgin approved. you know,
Elgin approved, yep. Elgin AUS
that's
approved,
all
eligible,
totally awesome.
correct.
Well, so what's a great thing is in today's market environment where it's now back to basics and everybody's fighting over the purchase market. Well, guess what? You've been doing that 2020 and 2021. I think a lot of loan officers forgot how to work over the last couple of years because so much refi volume was coming their way and they were
Yeah,
literally turning away business. It's the first time in any industry I've ever heard of that, by the way, where suddenly somebody's like, oh, I can't, sorry, I actually can't take your money because I have so much business going on right now. That's what's been happening with in the last 2 years. But you weren't doing that. You told me you maintained 70% purchase over these last 2 years. First,
that's correct.
well, so tell me, you had to have built a hell of a network over those last 2 years of realtors that you are leveraging now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing is, I'm intentional when I'm working. I say, look, when it's go time, it's go time. So it's like being on, if you like sports, it's like being on the field, being on the court. And what I mean by that is, I even tell my other LOs, even my one, like my realtor relationship, if I've had it for 5 years, if there's a 1 week that I don't get a lead from him, he still gets a phone call from me on Monday, and I bust his chops and I say, "Hey, are you on vacation? Are you slacking?" And I hold him accountable, no different than he holds me accountable as his partner to provide the best level of service, right? and I'll ask for business. So I'm intentional. And I say I ask for business from my mom, from my dad. I remind them. So I'm very intentional about reminding absolutely everyone what I'm doing, no different than Nike, McDonald's, or anyone else that they're just blasting advertising in front of our face 24/7 to go buy from
Oh
them,
yeah.
right? Until someone does. So I think it's the same philosophy, other than I don't have their marketing dollars, but I got my cell phone and I know how to ask and ask and ask, even if I asked last week. And if they really don't like it, they're gonna start ignoring me. And then I know that's someone I wasn't ever gonna sell anyways. So who cares?
Well, so let me ask you this: if you've got a network of realtors, right? There's a lot of realtors out there. There's more realtors than there are homes
Yeah.
for sale. So in Florida specifically, there's tons of realtors. So how do you prioritize who you're reaching out to? You could spend all day calling realtors that don't actually, they don't really move the needle for your business at all, either for you for them or them for you. So how do you actually prioritize amongst agents and realtors?
So that's a great question for sure. So the way I prioritize it is actually have my week broken down on who I'm calling on which days. So for example, on Mondays, I'm really focused on going after new agents I don't really have relationships
Hmm.
with, right? And I'm focused on those being agents that are focused on purchase business, traditionally doing at least one transaction a month, so 12 a year. If they're not doing that, I'm probably not reaching out, right? Because we're not going to get along. And not because someone that does less than that isn't someone that I can work with, but because someone that does less than that is probably going to need a lot of hand holding as a realtor, and that I'm not going to be able to provide.
Yeah, that makes total
They're going to
sense.
need,
Yeah.
and therefore I'm just not a good fit at this point. So for that reason, on Tuesdays, I'm reaching out to every buying agent and listing agent that we have a deal under contract with, right? But what I do there, everyone thinks, oh, you're calling to give an update, or you're calling to, the update's an excuse. That's an excuse to call. What I'm really doing is I'm calling and I'm asking for business. Hey, is there, if it's my buying agent, hey, do you have anyone else, that you need your help with? If it's the listing agent and I've never done business with them, I'll simply ask directly, hey, do you have any other deals that are falling apart or you're having issues with? Because they're not going to tell you unless you literally ask them that directly, do you have a problem? Otherwise, in their head, they have to solve it themselves. That's how most people are designed. We're not designed to ask for help.
Yeah, for sure.
And I get deals out of those questions. So when I say I'm intentional, that phone call, I ensure that if I'm on there for only 30 seconds, 45 seconds talking to them, those questions come out of my mouth.
I love it. You got a process, it sounds
If,
like.
if nothing else comes out of my mouth, it's that,
Yeah. Well, so
And it kind of goes on and on like that. On Thursdays, I'm calling every agent that I have a client that's pre-approved, right? Hey, are you going to go show homes? Did you schedule something? Just so you know, Richard, remember I told you I didn't want to work
yeah,
24/7? I'm not on the weekends. I'm not on after 6 p.m. on the weekdays.
very rare amongst the loan officers I talk to, almost all of them are working on the weekends.
And they all believe that. I have a team, we have a process, and they have ways to get a hold of us after hours through a mass text thing that we have that we're all monitoring, but it's not one person, one show.
Yeah, it's a team, and you guys basically got like
Yeah,
someone's on call, and that person monitors it and handles the business, right?
basically,
Well,
yeah.
so there's one really cool thing that you said to me about your process with the agents. I think a lot of loan officers don't really know how to approach this, and we can get into who helped, maybe where you learned to do this, your process,
Yeah.
because I know you mentioned coaching, but we'll get into that in just a second. What I was curious about is you don't take realtors and agents, you don't take them out to lunch. Like this is one of the things you were very explicit about, right? You don't take them out at lunch, and you've got a very specific approach to them. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I don't go out to lunch. I don't do party favors. I don't do the door knocking, I say, or, pop ups as some do it. Because, like I said, I don't think any of that at the end of the day works. And the only reason I say I don't think it works is because it didn't work for me. Let me be very clear. I've tried it all. Gone to, I can't count how many lunches before when I first got
Hmm.
started. Did so many pops ups, and I just felt like it was spinning my wheels, and realized, man, I'm only able to see one or two people a day, if that. And quite frankly, I'm someone that if I'm in the car, especially Florida summer, man, that hot sun's hitting me. By the time it's 3 p.m., I'm already done. I'm shut down,
Yeah, I'll
Richard.
bet.
I love Florida, but I'm shut down during the summertime by 3 p.m. if I'm more in the car more than an
Yeah.
hour because of the Florida sun. I don't care how cold I got my AC on and how dark my windows are tinted. So that just didn't work for me. So yeah, like I said, it's very intentional. It's on the phone. It's asking for business. It's offering a lot of help. So I'll tell you, like, I offer a lot of help. I offer, like, so do you have a deal that's falling apart? And I don't necessarily ask that they have to send it to me. Well, tell me what's going on, and maybe I can tell you how the other LO can solve it. And I've closed without it being under my name. Can't even count how many deals for another LO by letting it stay there because I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I've ran into that issue because it's trial and error. A lot of our learning, right? Like, oh yeah, I made that mistake. I don't own up like I'm the smartest guy. I'm like, yeah, I know I made that mistake before. Can you connect me with the LO? I'll tell them how to fix it for you.
That's awesome.
And I'll do that, connect, and I'll talk to them like, look, I'm not trying to take your deal. Here's how you do it. Keep your agent happy, blah, blah. But what happens is the next time that agent has a client, they'll remember that. What happens is the next time again, I did a favor for nothing. I still ask for business. And guess what? I'm still going to keep calling and asking for business. But I stay in my office, man. I say, you Monday through Friday, 9 a.m., 6 p.m., you find me in one place, and that's behind this chair, nowhere else, right? And that is where I run my ship because I can connect with social media, with my cell phone, with texting, emails to way more people than I can. And sure, maybe my conversion rate might not be as high as someone that meet and greet in person, but I don't need it to be because I can touch 10 times as many people in the same time
Yeah.
frame.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Makes total sense. As opposed to driving all over the place trying to meet and talk, have all these different meetings. You can talk to 20 or 30 people in that same time frame.
Absolutely.
Well, so one thing we touched on was coaching. And so you had some help early on. Then you said there were a couple organizations you're a part of. Do you want to touch on any of those?
Oh, absolutely, man, because I would not be here without any of them. I mean, I tell you that for sure. I say I'm a doer for sure. And actually, I think we also talked about what ACE Lending Group stands for: ACE, Action, Commitment,
Yep.
Excellence. And the first key of that is action, and I'm great at that. I'm great at you telling me do something. I just do it. I don't ask questions, and if it sucks, then I'll pick another route, whatever. But I still do it. I don't question it. It's just how I'm built. But the first company I joined that started this whole journey was the Freedom Club. And the Freedom Club has completely changed my life upside down, man. Like, I can't go on from the way I run my business to connecting me to individuals to basically, they connected me to other broker owners in Florida. And then those broker owners helped me open up the business.
That's awesome. So how did you hear about the Freedom Coaching Club first?
Google. I just was literally like I was again exhausted. I'm like, I need to find something. I know how to work. I know I obviously know how to produce. Uh, I'm used to being a top sales guy, and what I used to do, I used to be in the auto industry. Like, what is going on here? You know. So I did that. Found them. Called. Did a one-on-one. And signed up. And literally, my first meeting, everything they said was everything that was in my head, except for the first time ever, someone else was actually agreeing with me.
That's awesome. So a lot of it's probably processes, right? Like daily routines, weekly routines. They teach you just kind of these are your bread and butter things you got to be doing all the time.
Yeah, just like the phone calls. Like I tell you, my phone calls are scheduled, right? Mondays I'm calling certain agents. Tuesdays a different set. Wednesdays a different set. Thursdays, right? Like, it's the same idea, and there's a process for everything. There's a script for everything, so everyone's uniform, right? Not just myself, but the processing team, my pre-approval specialist. So we all sound the same. So actually, I'll make a fun reference. Did you ever watch The Walking
Oh yeah,
Dead?
of course.
Okay, you remember
Yeah.
Negan? How when everyone was, I am
Yep.
Negan. All right, unrunning joke. Everyone here says, I am Elgin.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, literally, if a realtor calls, I'm in a meeting, even if I'm not in the meeting, and they want to speak to me or they want to do this, the first words that come out of their mouth is, yeah, he's with a client. I can help you. What's
I
going
am
on?
Elgin.
It's not I can help you. It's not how can I help you? It's not may I help you? It's I can do it.
That's awesome. I love that approach.
And so they take ownership, and what happens is they tell, well, here's what's going on, and there it is. And 9 out of 10 times, it means I don't have to get involved, and I can focus on what grows the business.
So talk to me a little bit about. Let's pivot here. Tell me about your goals here for Ace, and what do you expect to do this year? What do you want to get it to in say 5 years?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I myself, as an I say as I talk about A's, I always talk about my personal production, but that's not really the end goal. You know, myself this year, I want to do 60 million. Now that I added the other three LOs between them, I want to get the company up to 100 million in production. Why? 'Cause it just looks pretty. No rhyme or reason, man. 100 mil sounds wonderful,
Yep.
right?
And once you hit 100, you're going to be
Uh,
looking at the next step.
yeah, absolutely. 5 years from now, I want to be at a place where I have someone running my book of business, honestly, and I have more than enough business that they can do that, and I can still get a paycheck. And at that point, in 5 years from now, I want to start on my next journey, which I already, in my head, just so you know, I already know what it is. To me, this is a platform to get me to that next journey because then I can point back at this success and say, I did this.
Elgin, you got to tell me, man. After that kind of a teaser, what's the next journey? Come on, man. Everybody listening is going to want to know.
Absolutely, man. Well, hopefully you could tell I'm pretty polished at talking on this
Yeah,
podcast.
for sure.
I love public speaking. I love helping others, which is why I have my LOs. But even not just the LOs I help, even my processing team, like the way I go about it, every single month I have one-on-one meetings, not just about what's happening at work, but in their personal lives, how to improve them. So I want to do public speaking, man, motivational speaking, kind of like what Tony Robbins does, Grant Cardone, and where I see a huge, I guess I wouldn't say market missing, but in a way, a market missing is there is no Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, or Gary Vee of the Hispanic community.
Yeah.
There isn't. I'm from Costa Rica. Literally came here when I was 5, 6 years old, and trust me, it was not easy. Not to throw any sob story, but it wasn't easy. And at the end of the day, every single day, truly, Richard, I wake up. I feel so grateful to be in the shoes I am today because not one day in my life did I ever think this is where I would be.
That's amazing, man. Humility. I love it. You look. My wife is also Latina, by the way. She's from Colombia, and in her work, she's a member of this group for the Hispanic Latino. It's called HLX, but basically, it's furthering them in their struggle. And they call me. It's funny. You're gonna laugh. They call me an ally. I guess I'm
Okay.
an ally just because I'm I'm a husband, and our kids speak Spanish, and we're teaching
Yeah.
them that, but. I'm getting off topic, but I totally get it, man. I resonate with that completely. It's a huge need
Uh,
also for this industry too, growing like crazy. And so it's not just about doing the right thing and making sure you help all the different borrowers out there in the Hispanic and Latino communities that need help, because they definitely need help. It's more about it's also an
help more.
opportunity. It's a huge business
But I could
opportunity.
help more, man. I can help so many more if I can teach others because now they're help. Because at the end of the day, I'm only ever going to be able to do so much business, right? Even if I scale my business. But if I can teach others how to scale their own businesses, the end result at the end of the day is much more Hispanic families get helped. And I mean, to get a little off topic, but not to get off topic, what made me want to change all of this is a very personal story that I didn't get to share before, but it has to do with my own mom and dad, man. Uh, we came to the country kind of like I told you. It took them several years to be able to buy. With the knowledge I know now and knowing what my parents were doing, I truly, till this day, believe they should have been able to buy 3, 4 years sooner than they ever did, but no one ever showed them how. It was just yes or no everywhere they applied until they finally got a yes. And even then, kind of like everyone else, when they bought during the big housing market being up in '05, they did, and they would put in an arm loan and never told. Whether they were told or not, they were unaware. Let me put it that way. And they lost everything. because their payment went up, and I was 18 years old. They gave me power of attorney to short sale their house. At the time, I had no idea what was going on, other than I had to go sign a bunch of paperwork. But as I became older, as I then got into the mortgage industry, I sat down with them. I'm like, hey, can you guys tell me what in the world happened? And they explained their side of the story. And after then being in this industry and being trained the way I was trained, I actually believed everything they said. The way I was trained is, yeah, you just send disclosures out. You don't take your time. You're not, you know what I mean? You're just turning and burning through numbers.
Of course.
You're not building relationships. You're not educating. I was like, okay, I literally became uncomfortable with the only way I was doing business. Let me put it that way. And it just continued to, I guess you could say, quantify to a point where I got to where I am today because I just wanted to change it. So that's why everything's appointment based. That's why I take when I am with a client, it's a 30-minute appointment on the phone. They get a presentation through Mortgage Coach.
Our sister company, so we absolutely love Mortgage Coach. Yeah.
Yeah, I love them too, man. So absolutely. And they go step by step on every single deal. Even when they're submitting offers, they get mortgage coaches in between their offers so they can kind of see where they're at and they can really budget. And it's never about what's the max you can get approved for. It's what can you truly afford and live in that would be comfortable.
Yep.
So a very different approach, but it all ties together for me. And that's why getting to that next step and 5 years from now is so important to me.
Well, Elyin, I mean, I really appreciate you opening up and telling us a little bit about that, because I think a lot of folks, when you dive into it, especially folks that start their own thing, there is something powerful that's giving them the energy to do what they're doing, because it's exhausting what you're doing. Like starting a company is exhausting. And you have an end. Well, you've got milestones, and there's somewhere you're getting that energy from. And these kind of experiences are what power that energy, right? And so, well, I mean,
it's not motivation anymore. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, when I look at people like yourself, there's almost always a certain common thread with, especially in this industry, successful branch managers, successful business owners. They enjoy the coaching aspect. They get something out of teaching other people to fish. And you're definitely one of them. You were telling me about your new LO and how they are scheduled to take their first vacation in 20 years.
Yeah, without a phone call from a realtor, without anything. And with her, her husband, it was completely life-changing, Now I'm teaching her how to be off by 7 p.m. on the weeknight so can actually sit down and have dinner, with her family every evening, already doing the weekend. So all these little things tweak, and just realizing that you can still do great things. I say you can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
You really can. You have to have a process. You have to put in the work. And I think the biggest word I like you have to be disciplined, because it doesn't happen overnight. Right? It just doesn't happen you doing it 1 or 2 times. You have to just trust, be disciplined, and execute every single day, even if you're not seeing that result. If other people are telling you this is where success is, and they actually can show you their numbers, and obviously they're doing it, well, how could they be telling you otherwise, right?
Yep.
Obviously, filter. I would say, obviously, you want to vet the information.
Yeah.
You don't want to follow but if the information's vetted, man, there's hundreds of people that are successful in this format, thousands of people. How could it not work? You're no different. We're still humans.
Yep. Yep, for sure. Well, so I think the message for anybody listening is it's important to give back, right? Become a coach, give back to others, help other people, because if you're getting help from other people, I actually think you need it as a person, right? That's the next evolution for yourself. So Elyin, I just want to say thanks so much for a great discussion. If someone's listening right now and they want to reach out to you and just connect with you, maybe they want to learn about how they could start their own brokerage. Maybe they want to join your brokerage and they're in Florida or something like that. How do you want people to reach out?
I think the best way is an email. An email would be best. And that's my first name, Elyin, ELYIN, @acelendinggroup.com.
There we go. Well, Elyin, I appreciate it, man. I think everybody listening got a lot out of it, and thanks for a great discussion.
No, thank you so much for having me on here today, Richard.
Thanks for listening. If you like the podcast, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe, and tell all your friends about the show. We at Sales Boomerang started this podcast to elevate the mortgage lending industry by sharing the kind of exclusive, insider knowledge from the successes and failures of the best of the best. The foundation of every successful lender is borrower retention. Sales Boomerang is the #1 fully automated borrower retention system in the industry. 1 in 2 of the biggest lending companies in the United States use Sales Boomerang to make sure they reach out to their borrowers when they need a loan, and more importantly, before their competitors do. If you want to learn more about Sales Boomerang, check us out at salesboomerang.com.